Yo, what's happening guys, King GBL here, and welcome back to some Spring Cup action. Today I'm going to be showcasing another very strong team that actually pushed me up 150 ELO yesterday, all the way from 2150 to 2300, which at this point in the season is pretty decent. So we're going to have a look at the team today, and kind of go through a lot of different matchups. I think yesterday, I went 16 or 17 out of 25. I believe I had a 9-win streak in there somewhere as well. Definitely a very strong team. We're running this with Trevenant in the lead, with Poliwag and Dewgong in the back. If you really wanted to, you could try to lead Dewgong. There is one team in particular which is kind of tricky for this one, which is kind of the team that was showcased by Zionic and Junkus recently. Colin Six's team, Tropius, Poly and Dewgong. That team is kind of difficult. If you ever get that team, you kind of have to stay in, sacrifice the Trevenant, and try to take it from there. A very, very tricky team to play against, but your Poly has got the best chance of sweeping that match. We may see it in this video at some point, so there definitely are of course some tricky teams for this. Trevenant though, its energy just basically goes into everything, and it definitely is a very strong Pokemon in this cup. As far as I'm aware, there are no normal types that people are using, unless people start using Arboliva for some reason. And in this next match, we do get the Tropius lead. Guys, we're going to hop into the video. By the way, we're only less than 100 subs away from 4K. If you guys have not yet subscribed, if you've been watching the videos, if you enjoy them, and of course you want to see more videos from me, quickly check, make sure you're subscribed. If you're not, please do so, and let's hop into the battles here. Now, the opponent actually in this case comes into a Golduck. I'm at this point thinking, like, what do I do with this thing? They do go for the cross chop, we do live it, which is kind of nice. And I'm going to go for an Icy Wind here to hopefully try and get off 2 more moves, or to get this one move off and then of course get another one off. Unfortunately, I am greedy here. I do go for the Icy Wind thinking the opponent probably shields, farms down, but unfortunately the opponent lets it go. So this is kind of awkward now. I've definitely made a bit of a pig's ear of this here. We're going to farm it the whole way down though, and we do come out with energy. Now at this point guys, the opponent still has Tropius, which is not that easy. They are quite low, and what I decide to do here is just go for a Seed Bomb straight away. The opponent will be getting to a move here, and I'll come into the Poly and counter it the whole way down. The opponent of course was going to go for the farm down, and right here, because we're using Pop, we can just punch the whole way through the Sea King. The opponent can debuff us, but they're not going to debuff us quicker than we ramp ourselves up. These counters are just going to add up and add up, so good games here to the opponent. I decide to shield up what is definitely going to be an Icy Wind. We go straight for another Pop, and yeah, the counter damage boosted is going to basically just outpace the Sea King. The opponent has a very difficult time here, trying to decide what to shield, and that's a good game. In the next one, we have a Poliwag lead. We're going to look to go straight for the move on 7 here, I believe. We go for the CMP tie. I'm very, very patient there, and that allows us not to get caught on. The opponent could have caught a resisted move, but we're going to go for the Shadow Ball. And what I actually decide to do here is come into Dewgong. The reason I'm coming into Dewgong is because it's very weak to Poliwag, right? So we don't want to get that misaligned later on, where we have a Dewgong in the end game against the Poliwag. I go for an overfarm. The opponent goes for another Power Punch right here. That's perfectly fine. I'm happy enough for them to get me low here. Get off 1 move on this, 1 move on Poly. And because the opponent safe swapped a Mawile, I thought there might be something else in the back that is weak to Poliwag. So I decided I want to just keep that in the back. We can bring back in the Trevenant to this thing, and we can look to bring in the Poliwag. Because I'm up a shield, I'm happy enough to come into Trevenant. I could potentially come in and eat the move on Poly here, because of course the moves will be resisted. I decide it's just a little bit safer to come into Trevenant. We can go for a Seed Bomb here pretty soon, and it actually was a CMP tie. So we'll see what the opponent wants to do. If they shield this move, they're probably weak to this in the back. They don't shield it, and they come into the Superior. I come in here instantly, because I want to basically get the debuff, which will allow Trevenant to live the move more comfortably. They pretty much have to shield an Icy Wind, or we can counter down or Shadow Claw down. I could have potentially stayed in with Trevenant throwing the move first, or in this situation, I could have no-shielded the Aurelius. The opponent did build up the Frenzy Plant, which as you can see in that situation there, does KO. And at this point guys, we definitely live in Aurelius, and we should be able to get off the Shadow Ball. Good games well played there. We're going to get off the Shadow Ball. The opponent realizes the game is over, and we hop into the next one. Superior, quite an interesting pick for this cup. Now, Empoleon is kind of an interesting lead here. We basically win CMP, and every single time we've played this match out, the opponent goes for CMP here, and they just let the move go. They can easily live a Seed Bomb, but it puts them into a range where if they don't have the greatest IVs, we can farm it the whole way down. The opponent comes into a Golisopod, so what I decide to do here is come into Dewgong. Now, Golisopod basically walls all of Dewgong's moves, but Dewgong is just so bulky that you basically, you know, wither it down. Golisopod is just super glassy. I actually used this Pokemon today, and it is fairly decent. I will showcase Golisopod tomorrow. It is a decent Pokemon in this meta, but you're seeing here in this matchup against Dewgong, like, it's not even that dominant. They're not able to come out with any extra farm, really. Like, they needed to throw that move because we're getting off another Icy Wind, and the opponent was actually ahead in energy as well. So, like, this is not that great of a matchup for Golisopod, even though the typings would suggest that it should be. We punch it down. We'll see what the opponent wants to come into. I've got a pretty bad feeling here because they've already shown a Golisopod, and they come into the Furthorn, and this is where Power Punch is absolutely huge. We get that move off immediately. It turns out to be good timing, and yeah, we're going to look to basically start punching this thing the whole way down. I'll shield up a Power Whip, perfectly happy with that. The opponent's just in a very, very tough position here, because if they stay in here, they're going to get countered the whole way down with the boosted pop. And yeah, at this point, guys, we can just punch and Shadow Claw the team down. So the opponent dies with 2 shields. And in the next one, we get a very good lead. The opponent comes into an Empoleon. And once again, guys, we're going to go for a Seed Bomb. What I decide to do here is stay in, go for a chip, and then potentially come into Poly. Yep, we can actually get the counter head start here. And the opponent actually lets us get off this move. So this is looking very, very good. This one pop will actually KO the Empoleon, and the opponent immediately sees the writing on the wall in top left. So very, very quick game there. I was showcasing a pop Poliwrath yesterday, and like this video is just kind of further evidence of how good this Pokemon is. First set with this team, huge 5-0, very, very happy with that. And as you can see, we're starting off in 2147, and we will be finishing up around 2300. Anyway, guys, we're hopping into the next one, and we have a fantastic lead with Lantern. The opponent comes into a Pelipper. What I decide to do here is actually stay in and chip with the Trevenant first. This is a fairly good matchup for Dewgong, but I do get the shield, and of course, that is kind of the best case scenario here. They will, of course, go for Hurricane. You would have to be an absolute psychopath to go for a bait in that situation, especially because I've already shielded, and the opponent already has a decent advantage. I decided to undercharge this because with the debuff, I can easily live the Hurricane, which of course I could have lived before. You don't need to debuff them to live this. This is a very, I can't speak, a very, very, very comfortable live. They come back in with Lantern, and the reason I wanted that extra energy is because have a look at Dewgong versus Lantern here. We actually get to the second drill run, and if the opponent shields this, they're kind of in shambles. Trevenant comes back in, cleans them up. I decide to go for the aggro swap, and the opponent comes into their own Trevenant. It's absolutely huge that I got ahead in energy, because if I can land a Seed Bomb in this matchup, I can pretty much farm them down. Unfortunately here, the opponent will get the farm down. But we do have a full health Poliwrath, we do live any one move. However, the opponent just got a massive farm down here, which is kind of unfortunate. I do believe they will make it to 2 Seed Bombs here, which will be enough to KO. We will, of course, shield the second move. And we basically need to get rid of this Trevenant here. We're going to go for a little bit of an overfarm here, of course. The Shadow Claws are chunking, but they're not super effective. And I want to have my switch timer back, just because the opponent actually banked energy before they left, and we're going to get a nice little catch here on Dewgong. So people ask me, like, how do you make that kind of swap? Like, how do you just know? I mean, in that situation, right, they're on 1 HP, they have to throw the move, but you just have to sometimes make a hard call that the opponent has energy. Once you give up your final shield, for example, that's usually a good time for them to go for a Snipe. So I just made a hard call, of course, that they're going to go straight for the move, and I instantly swapped into my low health Dewgong. Had the opponent just farmed down the Dewgong, I would have lost that match, but that would be getting into a very high level of mind games, which you would have to be extremely 5-head to kind of not fall for that. You're basically overthinking it to a point where it might just be overthinking, or you could understand that the opponent probably knows what you're going to do, and you're going to not do what they think you're going to do. It's an extreme level of mind games at that point, but I think in that situation, we're on 1 HP, they've stored a move. I'm going to burn the switch clock by staying in against the Trevenant. I could have easily just run my move sooner, and it's just got sniped, right? So like, that would have been game over. The opponent's Spark would have registered before the Dewgong's Ice Shard, and that would have been curtained. So yeah, very, very tough management there, but we did manage to make it. I decide here that I want to bank an Icy Wind, and we come into the Poliwrath. This is arguably a mistake. I might have been safer just letting this go, because as you can see, the opponent's getting a lot of damage for in the Poly, and I start to second guess it now to the point where I think, okay, maybe they're actually weak to Poly in the back. I, for some reason, thought they might be weak to Trevenant. The opponent's actually letting these moves go, so this is kind of looking like a misplay here. I could have let my move go down, or my Pokemon go down, and then just come into the Trevenant. But, you know, one thing to know is, Quagsire versus Trevenant, if they're up energy, they can actually do very well, and they are weak to Poly in the back. So I guess I made a complete misplay here. I should have just kept the Poly in the back, come in with Trevenant, RPS the opponent. But we've just put them in such a low range where I can go in with the Dewgong here, go for the Icy Wind, and then look to come in with Trevenant, make sure that I can live the move. And yeah, this should be basically curtains here. The opponent's not going to be able to farm me down, I'll definitely get the farm down. A little bit of an unnecessary Icy Wind, so maybe like a couple of misplays that match. Again, you know, when you're in these sort of matches, it's very easy to overthink and try to think, okay, well actually what if they're weak to this in the back? And you know, sometimes you kind of have to make your hard call and stick to it, even if it's wrong. Because if you kind of dilly-dally and dance around, that can be a loose con. This is a very awkward lead. I played this out a couple of times, and I struggled to beat this team. Again, it was usually Tropius, it was usually Poliwrath and Dewgong in the back, which again is a popular team. The opponent stays into Chip and they come into Poliwrath, so that is one benefit here, like one good thing that happened. The opponent threw unnecessary energy, and they are going to come into the farm down, which again is not the greatest thing in the world, so maybe that was a good chip by them. It means I don't get off 2 moves with Dewgong, so yeah, maybe that worked out better. We come in with our own Poly here. Now, I decide to shield the Poly, just in case it's a dynamic punch. It's a pop, very, very unfortunate here. And yeah, they're going to go for another pop. but like I wasn't sure of it at this point, so I shield again. This is horrible, absolutely horrible. I come into Trevenant. I decide like Poly with as much health as possible is my win con. I'm going to sack the Trevenant. The opponent comes into the Tropius here, and what they're going to do here is very, very telling of what they have in the back. If you're able to play this out a little bit better than I was able to, you can possibly win this matchup. But yeah, I just definitely struggled with this team a lot. You're going to see here that they come in with Poliwrath. Guys, it's just Dewgong in the back. It is just Dewgong in the back. They didn't want to show me, but yeah, it's a tricky team to overcome. I think the best way to try to overcome that team is potentially by just kind of trying to land a Shadow Ball with Trevenant, swap into the Dewgong, try to eat the energy, draw out their Poly, come back in with your Trevenant, try to take care of that, and then try to take care of the Tropius and the Dewgong with your Poliwrath in that situation. That one just didn't work out too well for me, and yeah, we're going to hop back into this here. The opponent has, once again, Golisopod. Again, it's a Pokemon I used today, quite an interesting Pokemon. We do get a last second move, which is kind of nice. We done to and fro, and this Shadow Claw that they would have got for would have KO'd. They come back in with Mawile, we take swap, and that's a huge mistake by the opponent. The opponent comes into a Tropius though, so this is not that easy. This is not that easy. You're going to see the power of Poliwrath though. Poliwrath is so good, even against things like this. We do double super effective damage here, so like one Icy Wind doesn't quite KO, but it might as well. And with the counter damage, it's going to get very dicey for them. I was tempted to go for Pop here, but I kind of want to get the damage down, and I think what I decided to do is go for a swap. Go for a very nice catch and swap here, and yeah, we should be tanking a Leaf Blade, and that should actually allow us to probably farm this the whole way down, and even get off a Shadow Ball on the Mawile. I decided to go for a Seed Bomb, just to try and get the opponents to potentially throw energy. They have to shield, basically. The opponent actually throws a move here, straight away, which is not quite what I was expecting them to do. Which, I mean, it prevents me from getting to another Seed Bomb, so I guess it kind of makes sense, but now they just have no energy for the Poly. So this is looking very curtainsy for them here, as I like to call it. Very curtains. Good games well played. When you're running a trash RPS team like that, I'm sorry for anybody who's using Mawile out there, but I mean, you're not using it because you know it's like a very skillful Pokemon, right? You're just trying to RPS something. When you're using an RPS team like that, you sort of have to maintain alignment at any cost. The opponent goes for Pop here, which is very interesting, and they come into Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is a very strong answer to Dewgong, so I'm very happy that they stayed in for energy and misaligned the clock. Definitely a benefit to me here. They even allow me to get off a second Icy Wind, so I think the opponent's definitely misplaying this matchup somewhat. They do want to go for an overfarm, but I'm perfectly happy with that. I'm just hoping that Poly can do some work, or of course Trevenant can sweep it. Now, I think the opponent will get to a Flash Cannon here. Okay, since we've double debuffed them, we're happy to let it go. It does, yeah, about 45% debuffed twice, so we're pretty happy with that. I'm actually going to go for a Shadow Ball on the Mawile. Definitely a very good opportunity to go for a bait here. The opponent actually lets it go, and they come into a Roserade. The opponent obviously expecting a bait here, and obviously trying to put the whole match on Roserade. But Poly with 2 shields will just run through this little thing. Now, the opponent's win con here is to go for a bait. I'm not going to let that happen. We're just going to let this move go. Very, very big call here. If they went for Leaf Storm, they would have debuffed themselves, and of course they would have looked to one-shot us. So yeah, definitely a huge call, and I think the opponent realizes at this point it's game over. I had 2 shields, and I thought that if they were to beat me twice, this could get a little bit dicey, so I decided to let that go, and that's good games. Now, Dewgong lead, a little bit strange here. I decided to go for 7 and throw. I do try to get a shield advantage with the Dewgong lead. It does a lot of damage to us, and we go for an insta-swap here. The opponent should be throwing 1 and throw for good timing, but I did not really want to risk that, and as you can see, that was working out pretty well. Now, I'm going to play this match properly. From Dewgong's perspective, I'm going to build up to 5. I'm going to go for 1 and throw for good timing, and at this point, it makes it impossible for Trevenant to take swap. Dewgong wins this match in any shielding scenario, and we even get a complete farm down. The opponent's not in a very great position here. They've come back in with the Dewgong. I'm going to go straight for damage. 2 drill runs, basically KOs, and I'm desperate to get out of here because the opponent's coming back into Dewgong, which means they might be weak to it, and the opponent does have a Roserade in the back. That's good games. We are just going to debuff this into Oblivion, and yeah, I'm not even going to shield the Leaf Storm. If the opponent goes for Leaf Storm, they're going to debuff themselves. Yeah, you're going to take me out. Then what I'm going to do is bring in Dewgong, and you're going to have to go for another Leaf Storm, which at that point you're going to be quadruple debuffed. And at that point, Trevenant probably lives 2 Weather Balls, so it's going to be curtains. Once again, we have the Empoleon lead. We're going to throw this move immediately on CMP time. We do win the 2s here, just going straight Seed Bomb. So, like, if the opponent shields, you know, that's perfect for me, right? But they normally do let it go. So, this is a really good opportunity to RPS the opponent. We shield up the move. We're going to look to try to farm this thing the whole way down. Guys, sometimes they do live on 1 HP and you have to swap, like catch the move on Dewgong or something. In this case, we do not have to. The opponent comes into Roserade. I'm not baiting, and I'm going to come straight into the Dewgong. I don't really mind misaligning against Roserade too much, because look at the damage we've done. They do go for Leaf Storm. Sure, that would have one-shot us and we have to shield it, right? But we've actually drawn out this Lantern, and because Roserade is so glassy, we can literally just counter it down. I'm not really too bothered about it. We get off 2 moves on Lantern, the opponent has to shield, or save the shield for the other thing. And at this point, guys, I think we're basically chilling. Now, I believe I make a mistake here. I think I come in with the Trevenant to go for the farm down. I believe this is a slight mistake, because I let them farm me down, and then I come in with the Poliwrath. Luckily, I was able to do that. I needed to farm that down with Poly, and force them to throw energy and Poly first, I think, get the counter damage through, and then, you know, force them to debuff themselves, and then come in with Trevenant. That would have been the most optimal way to play that matchup. In comes the Tentacruel. This is going to be a Sludge Wave most likely, but they do go for Acid Spray. I have been shielding Sludge Waves, and they've turned out to be Acid Sprays. I think Sludge Wave Tentacruel is kind of an interesting pick at the minute. Dewgong is a fairly decent counter to Tentacruel, and they come back into a Ferrothorn. This is looking pretty good. We have 2 very good answers to this in Trevenant and Poly, and we're even getting off a second Icy Wind. So that makes it very easy for me just to come into either Pokemon basically, right? Because a double debuff Power Whip is not going to take out the Poly, and the opponent actually unfortunately does get a whole farm down. So that is a little bit unfortunate. I hope that they go for the Insta-Throw, and they actually swap into Dewgong and instantly top left. I thought the opponent would immediately Flash Cannon, but of course they're double debuffed. They want to clear that debuff. The opponent definitely made a few mistakes there. But yeah, getting off those 2 Icy Winds was pretty huge, of course. In comes Weezing. Very interesting lead, because Brutal Swing does a lot of damage to Trevenant. I've tanked one before and it does a lot. In comes a Golisopod, and because they're so far behind in energy, I mean, you guys seen what we done with it when we were behind in energy. Because we got the debuff first, we're basically chilling. This thing, I think, just loses at this point. You know, Golisopod, like I said, I'm going to showcase it tomorrow. It is definitely an interesting pick, but it is just so glassy. It has really nice coverage with X-Scissor and Aurelius, and it's really nice with Shadow Claw. But like, this matchup should be super dominant for it, and it just really isn't. I'm going to insta-throw this move. Or in fact, the opponent's going to insta-throw their move, because they can't really afford to eat another one. So yeah, they can take us out, but we're just in a position where we've debuffed them so much. The opponent actually goes for Snipe with Weezing, and I'm like, yo, snipe me, daddy. This is not going to be a player off. I am super happy with this situation. They're not on Sludge. They throw only resisted moves. I am super happy with that. I'm going to go for an Icy Wind debuff here. The opponent lets it through, and we swap into the Trevenant here. I'm going to look to basically shield up once and try to come into the farm down. I'm trying to think what might be in the back. They definitely need another Whiscash answer, so it could perhaps be their own Trevenant, which might be a little bit tricky. Maybe a Roserade. We'll see what the opponent wants to do. They come into a Ferrothorn, so of course that would be a Whiscash answer. And yeah, we're basically plain sailing at this point. We look to throw off moves in good timing here. That looked like it was a CMP for some weird reason. Shouldn't have really been a CMP. But I think the opponent actually just got denied. The opponent has the Flash Cannon here. I don't think there's any reason to bait, really. You don't get to a bait on a move. We go for another catch here. The opponent had stored the move. Once again, guys, that's just an amazing spot that people like to go for Snipe. I just give up my last shield, right? The opponent has a move stored. That's the perfect opportunity for them. Okay, the shield's gone. I can snipe it, get the damage through, and I could possibly win the match. Right there, I predicted the snipe, and, you know, this is the kind of thing where if you're in a very low ELO range, I'm not joking to you, like, guys, sometimes I forget that I've stored a move. Like, I like to think I'm a decent enough player, but, like, my memory is not that great sometimes, right? Like, sometimes I forget that I've stored a move, and I think a lot of people just, like, don't realize that, you know, this is the kind of gameplay you need to have, right? So if you're playing, like, lower level players, sometimes they won't go for the snipe for absolutely no reason. Like, you're about to take them out with a Shadow Ball, and they don't snipe you. So, like, if you're playing against, let's say, lower ELO players, or, like, more new battlers, you may not see this kind of gameplay. So you just kind of have to judge it based on your ELO, what the players are likely to do. Right here we have Tropius. We're going to try to play this out, right? If this is the Poliwrath Dewgong team, it's looking very tricky, especially because the opponent went for a shield here. It doesn't make things that easy. And because they did shield, I decide, okay, we're going to stay in, we're going to maintain the alignment, bring in the Dewgong, and see what they come into. The opponent comes into a Feraligatr. I'm going to go straight for a Drill Run, just before the opponent reaches the move. And I think we're most likely going to look to swap out into Poliwrath here at this point. I think actually I decide to stay in and tank the move first, and then come into Poly. We can actually store up a little bit of energy. And Dewgong does win CMP against the Tropius. Unless the opponent has a very high attack weight, we should win CMP against them. So that might be a little bit handy later on. The opponent comes into their own Poliwrath, and look at the size of this Poliwrath! This is an XXL Poliwrath. We're going to go for an Icy Wind first, and I think we're going to look to go for Pops afterwards. Debuff the opponent once. I'm going to shield up a potential dynamic punch here. They do go for Icy Wind, but I'm going to ramp up my damage and basically try my best to counter them down. This is looking very, very tricky. I still have a shield. The opponent still has a shield. We kind of need to just counter this the whole way down. The Tropius is in low health, but it left with energy. So yeah, this is still looking a little bit tricky. I'm going to commit to the counter down. We do get it. I'm going to look to go for an Icy Wind after 1. We won't throw the Icy Wind here. The opponent should be at the move. I'm going to look to go for the Wombo combo here. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I mentioned that sometimes I forgot that I have moves stored. I was actually going for a sack swap there. I completely forgot that I banked the Icy Wind. I just tapped it just in case I did have it, but that was kind of funny. So we do beat a Tropius lead and we do get another one. Again, this is just not easy to beat. We do go for Shadow Ball this time. Shadow Ball does about 65% to the Tropius. The opponent shields it up. And I think what we decide to do here is, once again, just sacrifice the Trevenant, see what the opponent wants to do. You could potentially shield that once and maybe get off 2 moves, potentially, but it may be a little bit risky. We come in with Dewgong. The opponent dumps their energy here. And yeah, this is actually making this a little bit awkward now. The opponent actually comes into a Penguin. This is perfect, guys. We are going to, as I mentioned to you in yesterday's video, they can get off 2 drill pecks. We're going to go immediately for the pop, which will deny them 2 drill pecks, right? So we can shield once, look to basically counter this thing the whole way down. Had I not went for the pop, they would have got off the second move, and that would have been tricky. They come back into the Tropius here, and I think I'm actually quite tempted to go for a bait at this point. I feel like I've got a lot of energy. I do go for the Icy Wind, so I'm just playing it safe here at this point. If the opponent shields it, it could be a little bit tricky, and the opponent comes into a Farfang Mawile. I'm not too sure why the opponent did not go for a shield there. We're going to go for a pop. We're going to ramp up, try to get the damage through, and we'll most likely go into the Dewgong here in a second. The opponent actually just realizes it's over. They would have had to have went for a player off, and yeah, I think the opponent, again, using a very RPS team, they should have maybe looked to play a little bit more for alignment and stuff like that. In this next game, the opponent had a Lantern lead. They come into a Tentacruel. My best answer to Tenta is pretty much Dewgong. And because the opponent let the Shadow Ball go, by the way, I never seen them shield up that Shadow Ball one time. I seen this exact situation several times, and not once did they shield the Shadow Ball. Of course, I'm going to no-shield everything. And if the opponent acid sprays me, they'll just farm me down. So that's kind of okay. I do want to get off 2 drill runs in this matchup though. And that is the amazing thing about the Dewgong safe swap. If you can come out with a decent amount of health, you can get off 2 drill runs, which doesn't quite KO, you know, if you don't do the ice shards. But if you do ice shards, it will KO. Now at this point, guys, we can just Shadow Claw the whole way down. I was tempted to shield this move. It is a Thunderbolt. It will definitely chunk. And the opponent comes into their own Trevenant. I kind of wish I did shield that now at that point, because this is going to come down to fast move pressure. The opponent goes for Seed Bomb, of course. We're going to look to go for an Icy Wind. And I think at this point, you know, I'm trying to get their damage down, but I'm also thinking, like, they're just going to outpace me so much. So perhaps if I maybe no-shield this one even, but my Trevenant's just so low, so I can't really afford to no-shield. I kind of have to go for a pop here and hope that I can reach another move in time. Yeah, unfortunately, the opponent just outpaces. We have debuffed them, but unfortunately, guys, we don't live that move. And can we get to a move on our own Trevenant? We don't just about make it, so good games to the opponent there. Definitely very, very tricky to win, but overall, had a very positive day. Highly recommend this team. And yeah, we went plus 150 ELO. Started off at 2147 up to 2298. Just a little bit above 150 ELO gains. And yeah, big thank you to everybody who checked this out on the stream. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video, please drop a like, subscribe, turn on notifications. I've been streaming here on YouTube. Highly recommend checking those out. Very, very fun streams. And yeah, I'll catch you guys tomorrow for a brand new one. Thanks everybody. Have a great day. And I'll catch you all next time.